It was a cold, stormy night in 1622 off the coast of Florida, America. A Spanish cargo ship, full of gold and silver treasures, was desperately trying to return to Spain. But as it was crossing the Florida Straits, a terrible hurricane hit, and in an instant the ship's huge masts broke off. The stern paddle was also torn off by the force of the waves. In a few moments, the Atocha sank to the bottom of the sea. At least $500 million worth of treasure was lost that night, and its location has become an unsolved mystery. However, 300 years later, these priceless treasures hidden at the bottom of the sea were finally discovered, and no one can ever imagine how valuable they were. Actually, when the Atocha sank that terrible night, it sank on a coral island in the Florida Keys, which was only part of a small archipelago of 200 miles. At that time, everyone knew the location of the ship, but a few weeks later another hurricane hit. The ship was broken into pieces and its wreckage scattered on the seabed, but its location was lost forever, but the record of its treasure was never lost. The ship contained 150 gold bars, 1,000 silver bars, and more than 50 chests of treasure. Today, the value of this treasure is almost $500 million. Over time, many have died searching for this treasure, but no one has found it. The exception was American treasure hunter Mel Fisher, who spent his entire life searching for the wreck and, with his wife, ran a diving school in California where he taught more than 60,000 people to dive. In search of this treasure, Mel and his family moved to Florida and began searching for the treasure. They had very few tools. They started searching in a place called the Metacambi Keys. But after a year of searching and more than 100,000 miles of searching, they still could not find it. Nothing was found, although many thought it would be impossible to find the Atocha in this vast ocean, but Mel had a secret weapon. Historian Eugene Leon went to the Spanish Civil Archives to find out where the Atocha had sunk. There he found a document. It was a document from 4 years after the ship sank, which mentioned a search operation. The search was conducted from a place called the Marquesas Keys, which was more than 100 miles from where Mel was searching. Mel and his team immediately moved their boat to this new location and began the search. But now they were searching in deep water, and their biggest problem was the visibility of the ocean floor. Although the surface of the water was clear, the divers below could not see their hands properly. So Mel found a great way. He attached 2 large tubes to his boat that were lowered in front of the propeller. These tubes were able to send clean water from the surface of the water down, which led the divers to the search area. It was not only cleaning the water of the debris, but it was also digging a large hole, and it beautifully highlighted whatever was underneath. Then one day in 1971, Baylor discovered a large pile of dirt under the ship. Although it was not a huge treasure, it was their first clue that the real treasure was probably not far away. Then some more ancient objects turned up, such as cups, swords, cannonballs, and even the iron nails used to hold the ship together. To track everything down, they began to create a map where the location of each found item was marked. After a few days, a clear line began to form on the map, and they concluded that the Atocha treasure must have always been somewhere along this line. But after 2 years of searching, they had not found anything of value. Meanwhile, Mel was running out of money, and if they did not find any treasure soon, he would have to stop the search. But in 1973, they discovered a silver coin and 3 large silver bars worth more than $100,000, but it was still not clear whether it came from the Atocha or from another ship, so they began to check the ship's cargo manifest again. The documents recorded the specific weights and serial numbers of the gold and silver items. They analyzed the documents and found that the numbers engraved on the silver bars matched the numbers on the manifest. They were convinced that the finds they had made were indeed from the Atocha ship. The team gradually began to clean the coins through electrolysis and raise money by selling them. Mel and his team were able to get back into business again. They began to explore new technologies to find more treasures. But just as they were starting to have some success, the Florida state government claimed all of Mel's finds under their control. Mello began to resist this claim. However, in the meantime, the team also found some other important objects, such as 9 bronze cannons engraved with the Atocha symbol. However, a day after they were discovered, one of their boats capsized, killing 3 members of their team. Sadly, Mel's son was among them. 3 years passed and the team stopped their search again, as they found no new clues. Throughout the search, Mel kept referring to a mysterious document that Atochar had written by a living person. According to the document, the man was smuggling more than 70 pounds of Colombian emeralds onto the ship. Although it was not yet clear, Mel was absolutely certain that Atochar's treasure contained more than just gold or silver, but also some other precious metals. Meanwhile, after an 8-year legal battle, Mel defeated the Florida government and finally gained full ownership of the treasure. By the end of the 1970s, Mel had spent $6 million on his search, but their investment had not yet paid off. But that all changed. One day in 1983, as they were heading towards the treasure line, their magnetometer suddenly started to light up. The drivers went down and found several metal objects that were southeast of the treasure line. They marked their location on a map and saw a new line that looked slightly different from the original line. Then in 1985, on July 20th, exactly 10 years later, their sonar scanner spotted a large, faint object. The 2 drivers quickly dove into the water. Strangely, about 100 yards east of Greg Wareham, they found the wreck of a ship about 80 feet long with gold bars scattered on top. There were many gold coins and bars on the side. This was basically the desired treasure. Incredibly, a finger-sized MRL was also found in the wreck, which was worth more than $800,000,